What you're seeing on screen is my Lesson 1 Drawbox exercises 7 and 8, plotted perspective and rough perspective. I decided to record my progress halfway through Lesson 1 because I wanted to have a reason to sit down and really commit to the exercises that I was doing. Knowing that someone would be watching me or knowing that the camera was running would push me to not procrastinate or get distracted. It was kind of like someone watching over my shoulder, like you are watching over my shoulder, so thanks for keeping me company. DrawABox is this web-based curriculum founded by Irshad Karim, or as he's better known as Uncomfortable. I first heard about DrawABox when I was browsing the Ethan Becker Discord and people were throwing around this 250 box challenge. Now, I've done numerical challenges like this before. I did the 100 head challenge and the sketchbook slam challenge. And I do think that there's some merit to them, but my opinion is that they shouldn't be grinded upon. And if you've watched my sketchbook slam video, you know that I have some hesitation on setting a deadline for it. And looking back on it, the sketchbook slam was just not feasible for anybody who has a life, basically. So you can imagine delving into the 250 box challenge. I was a little bit tentative, a little bit hesitant. But when I got on the DrawABox website, it wasn't just about drawing boxes. It was about thinking about drawing. And it was about thinking how to observe yourself drawing and observe the world around you. And this sounds super conceptual and abstract, and it's like, how can you extrapolate all that from drawing boxes? I think this is something that you learn with time. I'm by no means a master, but I'm not a complete beginner either. So everything that Uncomfortable is saying makes a lot of sense to me. I've been applying these mindsets because I have taken art courses before with other professors and teachers, and I've done courses like Sketching for Design, which is similar to dynamic sketching, which is what the later lessons on DrawABox aim to teach, modified from a lot of other courses such as dynamic sketching by Peter Hahn. So in a way, I've taken this course before, but never in so much focus and never in so much detail. And that, I think, is the beauty of the DrawABox curriculum. Every possible question can be answered, and a lot of them are answered on the website. The beauty of being in a class is oftentimes people will ask questions that never even occurred to you. And the beauty of having an FAQ and a subreddit is that you can see everyone's questions and the answers to those questions. And you can learn a lot through osmosis that way. The great thing about DrawABox is that the curriculum really encourages you to go at your own pace, to not grind, and to not set hard deadlines for yourself. The introductory text is super long, and it's long because there's a lot to learn about how to think about drawing. And this is something that I think a lot of professors take for granted. A lot of times when you're taking a class, it's really about the skills that you're taking that class for. And maybe you'll learn some conceptual mindset things during a lecture or a demo, but you really don't start with that. And here, you're starting with the mindset. And I think that's great for beginners. Even for me, and I would describe myself as an intermediate student, it was very helpful for me as well because it put into words things that I think I instinctually had picked up but didn't really know how to put into words. And I think a lot of artists might struggle with that, putting into words how we're feeling and how we conceptualize things. So to have that in writing is extremely helpful. Would I recommend this course to complete beginners? I honestly don't know. On one hand, I think that this may not be the best introduction into drawing. If you absolutely have not had any introduction to art at all, I think that a better introductory text would be this book called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain by Betty Edwards. Yes, this is a book you have to pay for, whereas DrawABox is free, but I assure you that DrawABox is going to be there when you need it, and that you don't need to jump into it right away. You can take it slow, because in my opinion, taking a course on foundational sketching or drawing would be a better introduction into these mediums and holding the pen or pencil and these techniques for drawing, because in those classes you're basically training yourself to, one, use the utensils, but also two, how to observe. The very first thing we need to do in order to draw is to observe. And I'd like to read an excerpt from Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain to show you what I mean. I had inadvertently selected from the many aspects of drawing a few fundamental sub-skills that I thought might be closely aligned to the effect of upside-down drawing. And the 5 skills, I realized, were not drawing skills in the usual sense. They were rock-bottom, fundamental seeing skills. How to perceive edges, spaces, relationship, light and shadows, and the gestalt. As with the ABCs of reading, these were the skills you had to have in order to draw any subject. I was elated by this discovery. I discussed it at length with my colleagues and searched through old and new textbooks on drawing, but we did not find any additional fundamental basic components of the global skill of basic realistic drawing one's perceptions. With this discovery, it occurred to me that perhaps drawing could be quickly and easily taught and learned, not strung out over years and years, as was the current practice in art schools. My aim suddenly became drawing for everyone, not just for artists in training. Clearly, the basic ability to draw does not necessarily define art found in museums and galleries any more than the basic ability to read and write inevitably leads to literary greatness and published works of literature. But learning to draw was something I knew was valued by children and adults. I think you can find a lot of the exercises from this book online. I found some on YouTube, and I would really encourage any beginner to check it out, because the things taught in this book are really so fundamental to seeing and being able to see things in the way that your brain doesn't want you to. Our brains and our bodies are very efficient, and that's what makes them so hard to work with, because efficiency for your brain is to minimize the amount of input as well as output. And DrawABox touches upon this as well, the way that our brains conjure up symbols for things rather than the actual thing. Now, I would still encourage people to check out the DrawABox lessons, especially the introductory text, because even if you don't do them, it's still a lot of good information to keep in mind as you draw. Yes, DrawABox does teach the fundamentals, but in order for them to be useful, in my opinion, you need to be practicing other things, which is why I don't think it's exactly necessary to do this course from the get-go, because I think the tendency for beginners is to hone in on one singular particular course or skill, and that's why these numerical or volumetric challenges are so appealing, because there's a set goal and a set focus. But DrawABox has the stipulation that this shouldn't be done in one sitting, and it shouldn't be done on its own. It's like trying to learn a language, and DrawABox is teaching you the grammar and the verb usage, but if you don't know the words, how will you ever apply them? And this leads into the 50% rule, which is a super hard rule to follow. It's to only spend 50% of your time studying and 50% of your time doing art for fun. And I think that would be really hard for a beginner artist whose goal is to just make a good drawing. And when I think back to my beginner classes in school, specifically in high school, it was like, copy this image onto paper, right? But the end result was satisfying and it was gratifying. And I think there are better ways to learn, again, how to observe the world in order to get it down onto paper. And I want to read this comment from Reddit user Sale Revolutionary on the Art Fundamentals subreddit. And it goes, I only recently realized that it's better to discover the fundamentals by yourself rather than force them upon your drawings. Draw what you like, ask for critiques, and then find what specific areas to improve on. Sure, drawing boxes is important, but is it fun? Hell no. But what if you wanted to learn to draw everyday objects better? Only then would you be willing to put in the time to practice boxes. And I agree with this sentiment. I think that it's more important to first discover what you like to draw, and after that, because you want to draw this specific thing better, you'll be more willing to put in the work. But if you have absolutely no drawing experience, of course, this is going to feel useless and mundane and boring. Because it is. Because you don't know what you're doing it for. And I think a lot of people get frustrated with DrawABox because it's incredibly meticulous and tedious, and drawing a box or learning how to construct one might seem useless to somebody who really wants to do landscapes or, in most cases, want to draw the human figure. So I wanted to share this other comment, again from the Art Fundamentals subreddit by Reddit user Lady Morgane. And they say, if you're bored, you need to find something that interests you. And that means researching a new technique that interests you. What do you specifically want to improve? What do you specifically want to learn to do? For example, I love paintings of sunsets that just seem so bright they naturally make you squint. That's a natural phenomenon of painting, and I think that's absolutely fascinating. So I've been researching all about light and color and how to get that effect, and it's so interesting. You just have to find something in art that interests you and motivates you to improve. Drawing a box may not be for you. Think about your goals and what you want to achieve. Getting better at drawing isn't a specific goal. You have to break it down to what techniques you want to learn. Don't be afraid to dive into it. It's a challenge. You won't get good at it quickly. Every mistake is actually a step towards improvement. These things are all fundamentals. A box is just very, very basic. You really don't need to perfect a box or a line to make a landscape or portrait or whatever. You just need to be really interested and passionate in what you're doing, even if it may not seem entirely relevant. Every drawing tutorial you watch and every little sketch you do is actual improvement. That's what makes it so much fun and motivating, to me anyways. So, with all this in mind, why am I following the DrawBox curriculum? And why do I think it's useful after basically telling you all the ways that it's not? Because evaluating myself, I feel I have a couple of things that are good to have in preparation for any kind of self-learning like this. The first thing is that I know how to pace myself, and I can recognize when I'm starting to burn out. With these challenges, it's very, very easy for someone to grind and rush and burn out. And I think especially with beginners, there's a tendency to hyper-focus and rush. I've had years of burning out and going through the whole cycle, and doing lots and lots of introspection and self-recognition enough that I can sort of tell if something is going to be feasible for me to do. And number 2, I've taken design and sketching courses before, so this is kind of just a more concentrated curriculum of exercises from those kinds of classes. So I've done plotted perspective before, and I have a basic grasp on how to construct things using perspective, but I've never taken the time to sit down and actually study. So this is a really nice set of exercises to actually study from. This is all stuff that I know I can do. To me, it sounds a little conceited to put it that way, but I think it's important to not underestimate your own ability because of humility or fear. If there's something you want to do, don't hesitate to start. So that's my introduction to Drawbox. I think I want to do more videos as I go through it, talking about my experiences with it, and maybe even walking through some of the exercises because they're kind of hard. Maybe I'll talk more about the technical aspects of Drawbox in the next video. So thank you for watching. Leave a like if you want to see more of this kind of content, and let me know if you're doing Drawbox or thinking about doing it. I really want to know what other people's thoughts and opinions are. So thank you again, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.